Welcome back to Game-Based Learning in the World Language Classroom, the why, what, and how. We're on section 3 of my book, The How. I'm teaching you how to use games in your class. I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese to high schoolers out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And I love to create games, so if you've got game ideas, want to work on games with me, Minecraft Education Ambassadors or the Minecraft Teachers Lounge, the Duolingo Educators Network, Roxem, or studio-nemo.com. We are talking about how to leverage online games in your classroom. And I say leverage because, again, with 3 exceptions, I don't have my students take out computers in class. Duolingo is homework. Duolingo is great for when I'm not around and they get that quick targeted feedback, even though there's no physical teacher in the room with them. So I like that. Everything else, I'm not gonna, classroom time is for conversation. It's for communication. It's not for sitting behind a computer screen. So we've been talking about Quizlet. And again, I'm gonna say again, Quizlet is a very solid flashcard app, but there is no human to talk to when things go wrong. So take that as it will. Another experiment I did with Quizlet is I just gave the student a question that I wanted them to answer, and the students had to make their own deck of cards with their answers so that they could practice their answers, because we were going to have a job interview. So this way they could practice their responses for the job interview. I had to check each of their accounts individually to make sure that they did it and to make sure they didn't have any typos, or, I could fix their grammar or whatever, but I had to do it all individually just because the way Quizlet is set up. So that was a bit of a pain, but it was worth it for the thing that we did. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of the Quizlet games that you can play in class, okay? There's Classic Live, and we'll talk about Checkpoint in a moment. So if you click on Classic Live, you have a choice. You can either put your students in teams, or you can have them compete individually. And here I'm having them compete individually. In teams, you have to decide, do you want the teams to sit next to each other in class, or do you want them screaming across the classroom? Both is fun. All right. Now, I liked that it came up, and this was like a random thing. I think depending on what side of the card I had chosen, sometimes it would come up in the target language, and sometimes it would come up in English. I couldn't really figure out a rhyme or reason for it, but I did like when it came up in the target language, and I do like to narrate when we're playing this, or I'm going to show you Blue Kit in a moment, because I can say, requins sont en première, the sharks are in the lead, geez, my students are really good. Look, they're all tied neck and neck. Okay. But I can, that way they'd hear, my students learned the ordinal numbers, the first, second, third. They learned all those super easy just by me narrating these games to them while they're playing. And of course, most of the time I put myself in the game, but if I'm not in the game, I'm narrating. So they hear all that language in context, which is really good. Look over here. See that out of 12? That's going to be important in a moment. Because this is one of the main drawbacks, is that only 12 questions are asked. Okay, so if you have a set of vocabulary that's over 12 cards long, you got to play more than once. All right, so 12 questions. Just as a comparison, here's Blue Kit. This is Blue Kit. This is a 7-minute game. In 7 minutes, my students answered lowest was 55 questions. So they got that delicious, delicious repetition. The highest, so this isn't even the highest in the class, this is just a random screenshot. And I know it says 100% correct, that just means 100% correct. That's what I love about Blue Kit. You could get all of them correct and still not win the game. And the person who did the worst could wind up winning the game. Actually, here, I think probably that person won. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so there's only 12 questions in a game of Quizlet Live. And the games only last under 2 minutes. So after a while, it's a bit frustrating for me to say, saquen sus computadoras, take out your computers, and by the time that they've booted up and everything, and by the time the Wi-Fi worked, it was like, oh, it's a 2-minute game, and it took 5 minutes for them to get out their computers and everything, and so that's a bit frustrating. So my bang for the buck, I don't know. So here again, it's a Quizlet game, and it's only 12 people. All right, here's Blue Kit. remember, we've got Quizlet Live and we've got Checkpoint Live. I'm going to show you Checkpoint Live in a moment. Hey, my kids are bored with the basic. Here's this classic. That's like Kahoot. I never play classic. Look at how many games Blue has. Look at how many different styles. So if the kids are bored with one of them, you just say, okay, today we're going to do cafe. Oh, today we're going to do tower defense. And each one it feels different. It's the same material, but it feels different. So your kids are going to love it. Checkpoint Live. Let's talk about Checkpoint Live. It's fine. I know that Quizlet is really thrilled with this, and I did help beta test it. Here's the deal, is it asks one question, and I know I said normally I like to have pictures on one side and keep the students in the target language. Here I was frustrated, and so we're teaching them the top 50 verbs by frequency. So I've got English, of course. You ask the question, the students answer it, and then the whole game pauses. And this information comes up on the board, and you say, yeah, most of you understood that apprendre was to learn, but some of you accidentally clicked on comprendre. Well, let's talk about the difference. So then you can have your teachable moment in the middle of that. But the problem is you're playing a game, and it stops the game for a lecture. And I find that repetition does so much better than the sage on stage, okay? If I can just get the students, the students learn more when they make a mistake than when they get it right. So if they're answering 50 questions in Blue-Kit and they're getting it wrong 4 times, that's okay, because then they get it right 5 times, So by the end of the Blue-Kit thing, they've gotten it right and they know what they're doing, rather than me stopping everything. So my students were very nonplussed by this. Oh, and my husband and I just had a long argument about what nonplussed means. To me, nonplussed means they were not impressed by it. But to him, nonplussed means they were very impressed by it. So it's one of those words that's a contronym. It means the opposite of what it means. So anyway, my students thought it was boring because we'd already been doing all this in Blue-Kit. And I'll show you Blue-Kit in a second, okay? So at the very end of the game, you get your class summary. Heaven forbid you forget to take a screenshot of this, because it's gone the second you click off of it, okay? This is Quizlet Checkpoint Live. The second you close this page, this data is gone. Now, Blue-Kit, my data is there forever. Okay, this is a screenshot. I went through and I took a screenshot of something we did last year. All right, it's still there. I could scroll through Blue-Kit forever to get, how long have I been using Blue-Kit now? 5 years. I can scroll through and get 5 years worth of data for every single game we played, every single assignment I've ever pushed out. I can see every student's score. And here's my data for Checkpoint Live, okay? My data is average score was 556. This is when I was beta testing, okay? So obviously the average score isn't that. The highest score is 9. Okay, so that's my data. Here's my data for Blue-Kit. I've got every single student's, how much they got, their percentage right, how much they got right, how much they got wrong. This stuff is meaningless. Forget this. This is just fun game stuff, okay? Let's say I've got a student who's really struggling. Oh, that's not a student who's struggling. This is a student who's struggling. Okay, he didn't do so well. He only got 20% correct. All right. I can go through, I can click on him, and I can see every single question he messed up. This one he got wrong the first time. And I just the Blue-Kit was very easy for me just to suck everything. This was the exact same thing from that I was doing on Quizlet. Blue-Kit, you can just click through and suck everything out of Quizlet into Blue-Kit. So it takes 30 seconds to make a Blue-Kit game, and that's what I did here, okay? So this student messed up to be 1 time. I'm assuming, because I know how teaching goes, he got it wrong the first time, but then the second time he saw it, he knew what it was, okay? This one, he only got this question 1 time, because it says 0 out of 1, and he got it wrong the 1 time he saw it, okay? I guess that's my Spanish one. And then here, again, he saw this 2 times. He got it wrong the first time. He got it right the second time. So it'll tell you how many times the question came up, and it'll tell you how many times they got it right or wrong, each individual question. Okay, here's a student who was doing fine, and I should have found one where they got the same question more than 2 times. But anyway, if you want to try out BlueKit but you don't know where to start, this is my special linguistics BlueKit that I save for when I'm training teachers on how to use things, or we're doing a big multicultural festival or whatever. This is just my basic linguistics one, and I will put this link in the description. And I'm over 10 minutes. I apologize. Next episode, we're talking more about how to leverage online games in your class so that your students are actually applying what they learn in their online games. So I hope to see you there.